Hey guys, I have a confession to make. As a professional photographer, every time someone asks me what camera they should buy, I cringe at that question and almost don't want to answer it because it almost never ends pretty. So instead of doing that, I'm just going to make this video, and every time someone asks me, I'm just going to link it to them, and it'll be that simple. So here are some of my thoughts on what your first camera should be. As a photographer, people are constantly asking me what should be my first camera that I buy. And it's one of those questions that, as I've progressed as a photographer, my answer has considerably changed in regards to what I suggest and what I tell people to do. Someone asks me what should be my first camera. There's a couple of things that you just got to establish first. Is this your first foray into photography? What's your previous experiences with photography? And more importantly, where are you trying to go with photography? So if your only experience as a photographer up to this point has been with a cell phone, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But you have to understand a couple key differences between mobile photography and using a dedicated piece of camera equipment. The first is being able to review your images in high detail and edit them on the device you took them in. While some DSLRs will allow you to edit and do the raw conversion in camera, none of them, or very few of them at least, actually allow you to share them socially and give them to people or resources that you would want to. That second step of editing and having a workflow that you go through before you transmit that image off to the world has a big difference between using a dedicated piece of camera equipment and using a cell phone. It takes time, it takes planning, it takes preparation, and if it's something that you do enough, will eventually take dedicated equipment to back up your images. On a cell phone, I snap a picture, it's backed up to Google Drive, even if I shoot it in a raw format, which my cell phone is able to do, and I can edit on my device with Adobe Lightroom and do the raw file conversion right there on my phone. And then I can output that file and send that off to photo agencies or Instagram or post it on social media. And that workflow is very different. So if you have decided that you want to buy a dedicated piece of camera equipment, you also have to understand that there is going to be a dedicated piece of editing software and data management software that you use to organize and to edit your photos. Otherwise, you're just going to be drag and dropping raw files and having to use Adobe Photoshop or whatever included software came with your camera so that you can convert those raw files into usable JPEGs. And if you're trying to get into photography, there's absolutely no reason why you should be shooting JPEG. Just ask Jared Polin. Another key difference between mobile photography and using dedicated pieces of camera equipment is that dedicated camera equipment is bigger, heavier, takes more planning, and is a bigger burden on you if you're trying to participate in activity. If photography itself is the activity, then there's no issue lugging around 10, 20 pounds of camera gear, lighting, light stands, tripods, motion controllers, etc. But if photography is not the intended activity, then you're going to find yourself looking through a camera bag when really your cell phone probably would have been the better choice. Ultimately, what I'm getting at is that the barriers to enter photography are very minimal. And the excuse of not having a DSLR is not a reason to not take photography seriously, especially with the capability of modern cell phones and mobile editing software.